Coming up this week on the Nintendo Directors Podcast, a fascinating chat with Kris Maddigan, the man behind the incredible original soundtrack for the game Cuphead. We also discuss the implications of Switches being bricked by third-party docks, the future of Level 5 games on Switch, and more.
Hi, I'm Mark.
And I'm Brad.
We're two middle school band directors.
And you're listening to
Nintendo Directors.
Hello and welcome once again to another Nintendo Directors Podcast. This is episode 3019. It is April 5th of the year 2018. And I'm just checking right now. Yeah, April 5th when you're getting this and your computers. And it is actually the 4th when we're recording this. We're really cutting it close, but we're going to have it out on time for once.
Yay!
Because I'm not sick. Although I'm actually sick, but I'm not as sick. So regardless.
He's not keeled over. He's at least functional.
So we're recording today, and we're going to have this out for you tomorrow. And we're really excited about this episode. By the way, I'm Mark Lego. I'm here with my co-host, Brad Beyer.
What up?
And we have an awesome episode in store for you. As mentioned in the introduction there, we have an interview with Kris Maddigan. And it's like a full episode, basically. Yeah. So you can stop listening to us right now if you want and skip ahead. We'll have a time marker with the episode for download so you can get right to that interview if that's something you want to do. We'd appreciate it if you listen to us. But it's
more likely you'll want to.
Yeah, that's the highlight of this episode is definitely not us. So yeah, that's sweet. The composer of the soundtrack for Cuphead, which is an amazing game, and it
was super cool.
Yeah,
like, we just kind of shot the breeze a little bit and kind of got to know about his background and his how he kind of came to be part of the Cuphead brand, like team. Yeah, there you go. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Very very cool story actually, and
really cool guy too.
Just super cool, very chill, and he answered all our questions very. Very gracious with his time, and so we think you're really going to enjoy that. But so we've got our total normal episode that we've got here, maybe a tiny bit shorter, just because there's not a ton going on in news, news wise, and then we'll do some what we've been playing and whatnot. But then plenty, just a really fun episode with him. We do get a little bit in the weeds in one spot.
So, it's fun. It's three musicians talking. We're going to meander. So
right, yeah. So we're band directors. You're at least musicians or people who appreciate music, and so hopefully you'll appreciate that. That's near the beginning of the interview itself. But once we get kind of past that, after all,
it only meanders a little.
Oh yeah, maybe. And we start talking about all his experience with Cuphead. It's really cool.
Super cool. And be sure to check. We've posted a link to his page and his Twitter account as well. So make sure you check that out. A really cool guy, a fantastic musician. You're going to enjoy that interview. So, we also have a lot of other things to talk about. So, just a reminder that this is an every other week podcast. We typically post Thursday at or before 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Eastern Daylight Time now.
Did we mention this is Nintendo Directors Podcast?
Oh, well, I said this is another Nintendo Directors podcast.
Okay, right. Yeah, sorry.
But yes, this is Nintendo Directors. We are the Nintendo Directors.
That's us.
That's us.
Yes.
That is
we did it. We won.
Yes. Sweet. Episode done. All right. Let's get into the news. So here we go with the news. All right, this week, the news is brought to you by every smashed controller from people who played the game Cuphead.
Agreed. Yep. I have many.
Yes. Thank you, Broken Controllers, for being such a gracious sponsor for this section of our podcast. All right, so, Brad, why don't you take the first one? This one's really cool.
Okay, so the first story this week is that there's a modder for Super Mario 64 that recreated the entire game of Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time within Super Mario 64. In other words,
it looks awesome.
You get to play Mario in Zelda world, but he also didn't just leave the landscapes there and just let you play around in them. Like he created specific he taking all the architecture from Mario and stuff. They designed an entire game. They reworked essentially the Zelda world so that it's possible to play the entire thing as Mario. So like there's tons of new platforms and stuff, and the way that the way the world you interact with the world is a bit different. But if this is via IGN, that they posted a video on their site of Mario playing through the Deku Tree and other areas of that, and it's just incredible to watch. Like, not only is it just blow your mind to be like, what's the Mario doing in the thing with the tree and the and the music is Zelda, but you're Mario and your sound effects and just like it's bonkers. It's totally messed up, but it's amazing. And what do you think, Mark? Like,
it does mess with your mind to watch it, but it's fantastic. And I didn't look into whether or not it's playable by the public yet. If it's something we can download, I don't know.
If it is, it won't be for long. I'm sure probably.
Nintendo will shut it down, but I'm getting in on that as soon as that posts. So,
just
keep your finger on the refresh button there, folks, because go find where that site is, and as soon as that thing can be played, grab it. That's so cool. So
that's it's hard to describe unless you actually see it, because it's just you see two worlds collide. Like, my childhood is just like collapsing in on itself. How do you describe all this? But yeah, super cool. Yeah, you should definitely check it out.
All right, so the second news item on the docket today is there are 2 new costumes in Mario Odyssey. We said it was a slow news cycle.
I was just gonna say, how is this a news story on our list?
There's a baseball costume and a Saddle of You Mario. Neat. So which
I mean, Saddle of You is kind of interesting because it plays on the past of Nintendo.
That was Super Nintendo.
There's plenty to kind of just
it's neat.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, do you know a little? Can you tell the listeners a little more about what specific that is, in case they don't?
The Saddle of You.
Yeah.
I know that there were like games that were made specifically for it. I think there was a Zelda game made specifically for it, and I have a friend who played it. But I think, like, couldn't you, like, you could
download new levels. It was like DLC before DLC.
Yeah. It was a streaming service that you paid for, and I think it was $20 a month or something. It came out. They had new games every month, but like when you downloaded the new game, you lost the old one. Isn't that how it worked? And so, like, to have that Zelda game, if you still had it, was just, like, incredibly rare. But
and that's why. Yeah, that's why it's so. It's not impossible to play that game anymore. Like,
everything I've read about it is that it's a short Zelda game that's really not even that great. It's decent, right? But
did it just use the same art style as A Link to the Past?
I think it was if I remember right. I hate speculating.
Like, I've seen screenshots of it before.
It looks like
it's
not quite as good as Link to the Past.
Okay,
but it looks decent,
right?
So, but anyway, Saddle of You Mario.
Right.
Neat. All right, moving on.
And baseball. Speaking of baseball, where's my Mario baseball game? Checked out the last week.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, that's a new thing. Again, they're adding more content to it, I guess. But
they're slowing down.
They're slowing. Unless they're just preparing, like trying to string us along for a major update down the line where, like,
you can play as Mario in the Breath of the Wild world.
Right.
Yes. Sign me up. All right.
Oh, dear. I got so much more to do playing that game as Link before I can actually go back and do another 300 hours.
That's true. But, man, to have another 300 hours. All right.
Oh, boy. Good stuff.
Really, literally, just to have 300 spare hours. Would be nice.
You don't get that. You have children.
No, I don't.
Sorry.
If I could have 3.
And we teach, so you're double screwed.
We don't play games anymore. No, we do, but it's tough. All right. Next news item. Why don't you take it, Brad?
What's up, Doc?
Yeah, what's up, Doc?
What's up?
What's up, Doc?
There are switches being bricked, and it has to do with their docks.
Yes. Okay. Now, we talked about this briefly beforehand, and I'm going to go ahead and go with it right now. Do you have a third-party dock?
I do not.
Neither do I. Well, we're okay.
Okay, yeah.
No sympathy from us.
Next story.
Actually, that does stink. If you bought a third-party dock, That stinks. But again, we didn't buy them.
Right. So yeah. No,
terrible.
this is from after the most recent update, right?
Yep.
The update 5.0
Yep.
or 5.1 or whatever it was. All of a sudden, several, I think, of the brands of Switch docks that were third-party brands, they just started like totally, killing Switches. And this is not great.
Not great at all.
Not
Do you know
great.
anyone that had this happen to them?
Not personally, no.
I don't either. And I know a number of people that have a Switch, and a number of them I'm fairly certain have third-party docks. So I'm wondering how widespread this is. It'll be interesting to see what the fallout from this is.
And I can't remember if the bricking of it, I guess, is like it can still be fixed if you send it to Nintendo. You just lose your saves. Is that how it works, or is it totally, completely
I
shitty?
honestly don't know. I know that it was the third-party docks.
It sounded like it was just like a failure, a shutdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess we should look into that more. Write us in. Let us know.
Yeah.
Tell us where we screwed up.
Yeah. And tell us if your Switch bricked. And
Yeah.
how upset you are with us for not having any sympathy for you, because ours are humming along nicely. Sorry, I'm terrible. All right.
You just
Lost our one subscriber.
that, and you probably just doomed yourself to having
true.
a broken Switch. So
That's true. Yeah.
That's
All
how
right.
it works. Okay, yeah. So I mean, I guess what do you think this has to do? Like, does Nintendo have? I mean, obviously they're not necessarily responsible for those Switches, but it is kind of like, what do you think they should say about this or do about this, or how does that?
I think they should have a one image post on Twitter in reply to it. Nintendo seal of I think it should just be that. They put that Nintendo seal on there.
Oh, man.
That would be terrible of them. Yeah, I don't know what they. I mean, I don't know if they should be responsible for like the cost or what. I don't know.
It doesn't. No, I mean, again, it's not technically, if you buy the correct materials, you're not going to have any issues with it. So
Yep.
it's not really their fault. It's just unfortunate that it kind of has to kind of come out that way.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Hopefully there will be a fix down the line, a patch or something that could help those things, or maybe that probably has to come from the individual
Yeah.
makers. I can only imagine being Nyko,
Yeah.
or one of those companies that's making those right now. Like, they've probably got to be really.
Sure, they're really pleased.
Oh yeah, it's loving it,
Yep.
loving it.
There's no such thing as bad publicity, right?
That's right. Totally. So yeah, we extend our reserved sympathies, maybe, if you've been a victim of this, but hopefully you're able to figure out a way to get that resolved, or just have to go back to using that original dock. Honestly, outside of the portability factor, which I guess is probably what a lot of people buy the portable or the third-party docks for, I really don't mind the look of the official dock. I think it's slick. I mean, I know that's not. I guess some people are like, oh man, it's too blocky and it's a big chunk of. That's like, I mean, it's designed to keep it nice and secure and to
It
put it in
does
there.
what it's supposed to do.
I think also there was an intentional design decision, with that having that front cover in front of it. They didn't want people to think that this was Wii U again,
Right.
because you can't use the touchscreen at the same time as using it on the dock. So
Right.
I think there was an intentional decision there to, keep that hidden. So it is what it is, and not to mention if there's plenty of people out there through whether it's ThinkGeek or Etsy or whatever, there's these little covers you can put on there
Yep.
to make them look cool.
Yep.
Lure.
Yeah.
Lure.
Lure. All right.
That's awesome.
You want to hit the next one?
Yeah. So the next one is that the Telltale Batman and Guardians of the Galaxy, they're coming to Switch. Now these are the original games. The sequels, I know the second season of Batman is definitely on the Switch. I think the second season of Guardians is also there?
Oh man.
Question mark?
Maybe.
If not, these are the first entries in each of those series that are coming to Switch, which makes sense. I own the first season of the Telltale Batman on Steam. I might actually get it on Switch instead.
Sure.
Because I got it for like a couple of bucks,
Yeah.
on Steam or whatever. But it'd be so much more fun of experience.
Yep.
That's the problem I have with so many of the games that I have on Steam. I have so many of them, but then like I'm really lazy, and so just the thought of like getting out my wireless Xbox 360 controller, plugging it into a USB port.
That's
That
too
would
much.
just yeah,
That's
it
too
would
much to
just-
ask.
And then plugging my HDMI into
Yeah.
my TV. Like
Think of those poor kids back in the 80s that had to like pull out each cartridge and put it back in the 90s. Like,
and roll up the cords and put them like.
oh man. Oh wait, that was us.
Oh, yeah.
What happened to us? I can't be expected to plug something in. I
Right.
want it to just yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
But anyway, these games look cool. I've heard great things about the Batman game specifically. That it not only is it a classic Telltale game, but it also takes those what do you call it, a lot of the classic villains from Batman and kind of gives new definitions of or new versions of them.
I haven't played it, but I've heard amazing things. And I've played the Walking Dead Telltale game, and that was fantastic. So
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I just finished season 2 of Walking Dead.
Nice.
That was good too.
Better than the first, or as good?
Not necessarily. I mean, good. Not as impactful as the first one. Maybe
Okay.
just because I played a Telltale game before. That was my first Telltale game, as it was most
Yeah.
people's.
Super cool.
Yeah, very
like gripping. Like,
yeah, emotionally kind of.
like save the kid or save this other person.
Let's not. Yeah.
But like real life decision, like
Right.
tough decisions
In the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
When that happens.
Right.
It's-
Absolutely.
I'm so prepared for that now.
I read World War Z a long time ago. I've been ready for a decade. So, all
That's
right.
awesome. Slow news week.
Yeah. So the last news story. This one is really cool. It's that all level 5 games going forward are going to be on the Switch. And if you're not familiar with level 5, some of their lesser
Came after level 4.
Yes, level.
It's just the.
Is it the water level? It's like the worst. No, some of their lesser known games are still well known. Would be like Fantasy Life. They did Dark Cloud back on the PS2. Yokai Watch, but then their bigger, heavier hitters would definitely be Ni no Kuni and a series of games that you're really familiar with, Professor Layton.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Love Layton games. They're excellent.
Yeah, and I don't know why I haven't played a Layton game outside of not having a console that really plays it. I think the first ones came out on the DS, right? They
Yes.
all been
Yep,
free.
yep.
Okay, and I just didn't.
Dude, you can get a 2DS for like $60.
I know. I should probably make it happen, but I'm hoping that maybe there's going to be like all previous Layton games released on the Switch as well, because the Layton games just, and you can speak from experience, they look incredibly charming. And
Oh, yeah.
they'd be so fun. I've been wanting to play Ni no Kuni since it released, but I refuse to get a new system just to play it. So if it comes out on the Switch, if they release, like, I know it's exclusive right now to PlayStation, and I think computer, I think like
PC.
I think PC. I don't think Mac though. But
Definitely
it's,
PlayStation.
yeah, and I think it's a one.
Because the original was a PS3 exclusive.
Yes, it was. Yeah. So I'm really hoping that once that like year lapses, they'll be like, "Hey, it's coming out on Switch now." Like, sweet.
Like everything else.
Yeah, yeah. Because there are a bajillion Switches in the wild now. So why wouldn't you release it on the Switch?
If you're not familiar, Ni no Kuni is like the
Studio Ghibli
that
RPG.
right, and I've just heard lots of great things about it.
Yeah, oh man, to be able to play that on Switch, if they could release both of them, that would be fantastic. But going forward was the story. So future games will definitely be on the Switch, and maybe that means like some kind of backlog will be coming as well. So
That'd be nice.
that's
definitely very
speculation. But, yeah. So, anyways, that's sweet. I'm really excited about that.
Awesome.
By the way, did we mention that we have an interview with Kris Maddigan in this episode?
Oh yeah.
At the end of the episode.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
I want to hear that.
Yeah, I know.
I also want to tell all my friends.
Yeah.
About that and get them hooked up on Nintendo Directors.
By the way, if you're still listening to us and you haven't skipped ahead, sweet. Keep listening to us. But if you want to skip ahead, remember we're going to have a timestamp for where to be able to find the Kris Maddigan interview when you download this episode. So, all right. Well, that's the news. Why don't we move on to yeah? Let's what we've been playing.
Hey.
All right. All right, time for what we've been playing. Brad, why don't you take it away?
Well, so I this is spring break, of course, and
It's wonderful.
It's fantastic, and so I've actually been kind of got away from the house a little bit. My sister and brother-in-law, they live down in Portage, and so I just went to visit their house for a couple of days just to kind of change the scenery, relax. They're actually out of town, so I kind of have the whole place to myself. My sister and brother-in-law, they have a really nice house, and so I've been taking advantage of that by using their giant
10-inch monitor.
10,
no,
12.
12-inch.
1200. No. it's probably at least like 100 plus inch like movie, like home theater in their house downstairs in their basement, and like state of the art sound system. Like it's
I would never move. I would just be in front of that plane.
Exactly. So like between my Switch and my brother-in-law's PS4 and Netflix, like it's been a really good couple of days. I'll tell you what.
Sounds amazing.
So yes, I of course brought my Switch there, and
Brought a
believe it or
portable
not,
toilet to sit on, so you don't have to get up at all.
believe it or not, I actually played some Breath of the Wild.
Oh, what is that a Mario game?
It is now.
Yeah,
Apparently.
that'd be sweet.
No, so I can finally officially say that I have finished the fourth and final Divine Beast.
By walking everywhere.
That's right. No.
Did you get on a horse at all? Or
I did.
warp?
I did get on a horse, and then my horse got killed.
Oh no! Did you go? Have you been to the horse ferry?
Yes.
Okay.
And so I need to go back, but they got Anyway, and I got the big horse, and I got the white horse.
Yes. All right.
So this is good.
You're doing the thing.
I'm making progress. Yeah.
I had a horse die the last time I was playing, or a couple times ago. My daughter was watching.
It's heartbreaking.
I know, and it
Especially
fell
when
off.
you
It
name
ran
them.
off a bridge, and it
Oh,
just
no.
fell down.
That's
and,
terrible.
And so she's like, "Dad, what happened?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. They just wanted to go down there," and I quick jumped down, and then it's just laying there, this like crumpled,
Oh, no.
like. It just like you can push it so easily when it's
Right,
dead. It just
right.
like flops around, and I was like, "It's just sleeping. I'm gonna go wake it up at the horse ferry," which is kind of scary for a kid to look at.
Right.
And it so that was awkward. Like just seeing this horse jump off a bridge, and it's my daughter names all of our horses.
Right.
This one was named Maybeth, her first and middle name.
Dang.
It's just like, what did Maybeth do? I just wanted to check out the bottom of the bridge. Now she's sleeping. So.
Oh dear.
Keep going.
Okay,
Sorry.
so I've been playing that. It was interesting. The fourth Divine Beast I did was the Meadow.
Yeah, but I think they say
bird.
meadow. I
think
feel like
so.
it should be meadow, but
Yeah, it sounds like. That one actually I found to be relatively on the easier side in terms of the actual puzzles, but it was pretty cool. There was at least one or two puzzles in there, as in all of them, where I was like, "This is flipping brilliant!" Like,
Yeah. Yep.
just some of the stuff that it never ceases to amaze me. The creativity and the cleverness of the puzzles that they create for those things.
Which of the end bosses in the Divine Beast did you find to be the most difficult?
The electric one.
Yes,
for sure.
Yeah, like that.
The Gerudo. Yeah.
Definitely takes some thinking. Like,
Yeah.
what am I supposed to be doing right now?
Which of course was the first one I chose to do.
Oh man, that was tough.
Yeah.
So you now have all of the special abilities from the Divine Beasts.
Yes and no. So I actually
What are you doing?
I have them, but they're the three of them. Okay, the flying one. Okay, I shouldn't say. But
No, that's fine.
The bird one that I just got, that one I'm gonna keep. But the other ones I turned off. They're too overpowered. I think they're too overpowered.
Coming from the person that walks everywhere in the game, okay, I get it. But man,
You're like invincible.
yeah, it's awesome. Like now that you've done all the Divine Beasts, like even back on the Great Plateau, the enemies are tougher. You're gonna have like white moblins and bokoblins, and they're like everything is tougher. So it's kind of nice to just be like, I'm gonna just walk into this camp full of just like super tough enemies. I'm gonna have like a really bad sword pulled out and like weak armor, and I'm just gonna lay waste to them. I probably will die at least once, but like to be able to have that,
Yeah.
I don't know. I like being overpowered.
I like being powerful, but yeah. And I am upgrading my armor. I'm still working on that.
Yep.
There's been several. I've got several things up to their maximum level,
That's
using some of
nice.
those dragon parts and stuff. pretty awesome. And again, still just enamored
so
with the
much.
beauty of that game. Just from the actual aesthetics of it to how well it's designed and how I just keep coming back, and there's so much more to do. Still working on finishing up Terrytown. Still working.
That's like my favorite side story. How that plays out at the end. You're gonna love how that plays out at the end.
Doing more shrines. Still got like another 30 shrines or so to go. Although, as far as I understand, the DLC has more shrines, right?
There's
Okay,
more.
sweet.
And
Which
more
I'm gonna
shrines.
buy soon, I think, too, because now that I've got the 4 Divine Beasts, I've heard that the best way to do it, I think we talked about this before, but I've heard the best way to do it is to do the 4 Divine Beasts, then get the DLC, do that stuff, and then, when you're finished with everything, go to beat Ganon. But then it'll be a more complete storyline after that.
Yeah, I could see that. I didn't do it that way, but I could totally see that.
Yeah. So I'm going to be purchasing that soon, a year and several months later. Yep, I had my Switch from day one, but it's really good. Okay, so what else besides Zelda? I played a little bit more of Typo Man. I had a while there where I wasn't playing it because I got stuck on this puzzle, and it was one of those things where I just finally booted up again one day, and I was like, oh, there it is. I figured it out. That's classic for puzzle type games. And then the actual other game I've been playing a lot the last couple of days that is not Nintendo, but is worth mentioning, I think. If you own a PS4 or an Xbox One, or I think a PC as well, you owe it to yourself. Right now, I think for the next couple of days at least, you can get Hitman, the most recent remake or whatever they call it. Not a remake, but just the new game. It's just called Hit or Reboot, whatever. You can get the first 2 like worlds, or like the training missions, I guess, and then the first big world for that game for free. And it's not. It's a demo, obviously, and you can unlock the rest of the game if you want. But it's not only it's the actual full game, but there's different theaters that different worlds that you go in, and so they give you the entire first world. Everything's unlocked within it, and then your progress will transfer forward if you buy the rest of the game, and it's totally unlocked. Now the reason I just discovered this because it was free. It's a fantastic game. I'd never played any Hitman games before, but this most recent one is really, really excellent. It's very good stealth. Obviously you're an assassin. Hitman, he does, and his big thing that he does is disguises. In addition to all the crazy creative ways that they give you that you could potentially make these things happen, which is really the selling point of this level that I've been playing. There are so many options and so many possibilities of how to go about, finding your target, locating, getting access to your target, killing your target. Like, they really mean it when they say free form assassination or free form, gameplay in general. And I wanted to share this because there was one kind of fun, like, little. It's not really a spoiler, a little Easter egg, I guess. This is super fun. There's one. So you're in the area that I'm playing. There is this big Italian coastal city, beautiful, like really, really bright, colorful, super fun, very large area, lots of city streets, and like I said, you're sort of near the beach there, and there's a pier and a big, mountaintop city here. Really a nice area. But there's also an area as you kind of go down through the near the bottom there's a sewer system that you can get into if you have the right key and stuff. And you get into these sewers, and obviously one of the main mechanics in the game, like I said, is disguises, and you switch from one disguise to the next, but you can only have one on at a time. And so you have to like subdue a person with that profession, and then you take their costume or their disguise, and then you go from there. Well, you get down in the sewer system, and one of the NPCs that's in there, you go up behind him and you take him down because you need to get past him, or you need to use some of the stuff that he's got, and you take him down, and then you take his disguise. It's called Red Plumber. And you're in Italy, you're an Italian Red Plumber in the sewers, and it totally looks the part.
That's awesome.
And then a little later on, you meet Green Plumber. For real though. It's obviously it's cool to see modern game directors give little nods like that to their past and their histories and stuff in this super serious, like, we're gonna go kill people game. But that
kind of reminds me of, there was a cartoon, like a little comic that was making the rounds like a year or two ago on Facebook, and it was a mom walking in and going, "Look, it's the Mario Brothers," and they're like, "Hi, Mom," and like. Then Luigi says, "Why can't you remember my name?" And she goes, she's just like, "I'm a sorry, Green Mario."
That is great. That's great. Did you ever play Assassin's Creed 2?
I didn't play any of the Assassin's Creed games.
Oh, really?
I would like them, but I haven't played them.
There's a great line in Assassin's Creed 2, and this is a very old game, so I'm just going to spoil it. Is that it's not even really a spoiler. It's just kind of a funny line. So you meet, you have this villa that you have to go to, where it's kind of like your home base of operations, and you're constantly upgrading it, renovating it. It's your family's old building,
Sure.
whatever. And so you get to renovate this thing, but your uncle is the one who's been living there for forever. And so the first time you meet him, or the first time you see him in a long time, you kind of come up to him and you're like, "Sorry, who are you again?" And he's like, "It's me, Mario." His name is actually Mario.
That's fantastic.
And I guess it, so just the way he says it is perfect. So, so anyway, that's what I've been playing. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. No, not really. Just Zelda and Hitman, basically.
Cool.
Mark.
And Type of Man. All right. Well.
All right, Tim. Yeah.
So I've been playing some Zelda Breath of the Wild still, working my way through some of the DLC. I'm halfway through finally the Champion's Ballad. I think that's what it's called.
Yep.
So, it's enjoyable. It's not quite as fun as playing the game, because I have beaten Ganon, but it's still, I'm saying it's 99% as fun. It's still it's still a lot of fun, and I'm really enjoying it. Still discovering new things. There's so much in that game. So I've been doing that. I'm trying to think. I beat the Vom Meadow part of it.
The vomit part?
Yeah, it's pretty. That's where I've been. Stomach issues, but So I've been. Nicely done. So. Been doing that. Next up will be probably Ruta or something. I don't know, but yeah.
So it's a whole new,
it's a
dungeon-ish?
No, it's not a dungeon. You do a series of shrines for each divine beast.
Okay.
And then you get to face the divine beast boss in a more difficult setting. So
same boss.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's fun, definitely fun, and like I said, it's very enjoyable. So much in this game to still discover, and I love that about it. So
awesome.
I've been doing that. I've also been playing a game called Darkest Dungeon, which I think I talked about on a previous episode, wanting to get it. Mm-hmm. So I've been playing that. Unfortunately, not on the Switch. I didn't want to pay console tax for it because it was like $2 to get it on my iPad.
Nice.
And it's a lot of fun. I get why the game had so many people raving about it. So I really like Darkest Dungeon. My only problem is that it does crash on the iPad from time to time, which is frustrating because it's an iPad Pro. So I don't know if it's actually crashing because of poor optimization for iPad, or if it's if it was only optimized for iPad and not iPad Pro, or what's going on. I would think the iPad Pro could handle it. It's a pretty powerful machine, but lots of crashing, so that stinks. So I might wind up paying console tax after all, because I do think it's a really good game, and I would like to play it without crashing.
And that's a hard game, right?
It is. It's very tough. And I was kind of disappointed when I looked in. I always look at how long to beat that website to see, how much time am I going to have to sink into this to beat this, because I don't have a lot of time. And I thought it was a 10 to 20 hour game. Turns out it's 50 to 80. Whoosh. So I might never beat it, but I might. It is fun. It's really cool. I love that kind of gameplay. So yeah, it's interesting. There's a whole series of afflictions that characters get the more they journey into this dungeon, and they, they'll get, it's kind of debilitating features to them, that make it harder to play the game, and you got to make sure that you're resting them from time to time. But some characters, you build up your town in that game, And like in the tavern, some characters will not do some of the activities to like make them get stress relief, like gambling or whatever. They'll be like, I can't do that. And you're just like, oh, come, you need to have some stress relief. And they're like, nope, I can't do that. And you're like, oh man, well, you're going back in the dungeon. You're gonna get more afflictions. Sorry. But there's a neat system for how to like get new characters in the game too. So I really like that. Good game. Might be getting it on Switch. Then the last game I've been playing has been Fortnite on mobile, the Battle Royale, and it's my first time playing it, and it's really hard to play it on mobile, and I lose all the time, and I don't come close to winning, and that's okay.
Right.
I do really, really like it. It's a lot of fun. It's my first time playing, Fortnite, or, I know a lot of people are into PUBG as well, similar games, and it's a lot of fun. And I'm so bad at it. Just so bad. But that's okay. Nice. So I love, if you aren't familiar with the story of it, it's like in the near future, and there's a storm that has wiped out like 98% of the world. And then the next thing you know, you're on a bus that's flying across an island, and then you choose when to jump out of the bus and parachute down to the island. And
nice.
So it's a really coherent story. And then that's okay because it's really fun. And then the storm starts shrinking in on the island. And if you get stuck in the rain, like your health drains really fast. So you're constantly like it. I like that mechanic of it. I think PUBG does the same thing where it forces the action. You can't just like hide forever.
Right.
You got it. Like you're gonna get into an increasingly smaller area of play. So I think I've been in like 6th place, which was a lot of hiding on my part. Because on mobile, like aiming and shooting just doesn't work well at all. But that's okay. Like I said, it's a lot of fun. I get why there's so much buzz about the game. So yeah, that's what I've been playing. Is that kind of the episode now? Besides the interview with Kris Maddigan, you need to listen to that.
Have you heard?
Yeah. And also we're going to be recording an extra special segment right after this that won't go on this episode, but will go on the next episode. I think we can tease that right now.
Yeah.
So on the next episode, we are going to finally be doing a Nintendo Director's proper soundtrack review of what game?
Dusty Diamonds.
Dusty Diamonds All-Star Softball. Yes.
No.
I teed that one up for you. Well done. You connected on that. That's good. Finally doing a proper Nintendo Director soundtrack review of Super Mario Odyssey. So we're going to record that, and that'll be on our next episode. So something for you to look forward to.
I like that game.
Yeah. Such a good soundtrack. So good. The game was terrible.
Right.
But the soundtrack.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, that
nothing worth coming back to there.
Yeah, except all 999 power moves.
Oh right,
and and baseball outfit, saddle of okay.
All right.
Anyway, so that's kind of this week's episode.
Should we plug the other one that we're doing?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So if you are a Nintendo podcast aficionado, enthusiast, then you are probably aware of, if you're aware of us, you're almost certainly aware of Nintendo Dads, which they're going to be, they actually asked us to be on a kind of a retrospective, we're going to record that tonight, and that'll be on one of their future episodes. Is that how it's working?
Yeah, very soon.
Yeah.
This week, yeah.
So they're doing a retrospective.
Well, it's actually a separate podcast they do.
Okay.
So
can I tease the game that we're...
Yeah.
Okay, Final Fantasy VI. Yes.
Mark likes this game.
Yes. It's my favorite game of all time, tied with Breath of the Wild now. They're 1 and 1A. And so we're going to be talking about that game, and that'll be, if you haven't been to their website or their Facebook or whatever, you should definitely check them out. And we will be on that in the very near future, which is exciting.
Yeah, it's been fun for me because I'd never played the game before, so I just started to binge it earlier this week, basically.
And where did you make it to? Where did you just leave off?
I got to the Opera House.
Yes, one of the best scenes in video game history. Anyone that has played that game will know, like, oh yeah, the Opera House. It's so good.
It's pretty good. I put in maybe 14 or 15 hours, but I feel like I'm ready to talk about it. One of the reasons they wanted to bring us on there was because they wanted to discuss the soundtrack, especially. So, we'll get some thoughts on that too. But it'll be cool to give some thoughts about the game in general as well. So check us out on there. Check them out. Again, Nintendo Dads. They're good guys.
Very good, guys. Good podcast, and we're excited to be a part of it tonight. And then be sure to stick around as soon as we wrap this up. We're going to do the show wrap up starting now, and then we will go ahead and have that Kris Maddigan interview.
Oh yeah, jump right over there.
Yeah.
Hey, I heard of that. Kris
Yeah.
Maddigan, he's a good guy. Hey, so thanks so much for listening, everyone. We can be found on all the podcasting services, or most of them. And you can also find us on the YouTubes. I did finally go, in case any of you have been keeping track, I had been behind an episode or 2 or 4 posting those on YouTube, so I did finally catch up on those. We'll make sure those still stay up to date from now on. It's just a lot of work. So I apologize for that. But yeah, you can also find us on N_directors on Twitter. And if you want to be part of the show, write us in at nintendodirectorspodcast@gmail.com. Our next show will be when school's back in session.
What, the 19th?
The 19th looks like, or April. I almost said August. That's long ways away. So April 19th is when the next time you will hear us. But right now, you should hear this interview that we're doing with Kris Maddigan. He's a good guy.
Yeah, absolutely. so yeah, that's the episode, and be sure to keep listening if you've made it this far. There's no reason to turn it off at this point because the best part is coming up. So next is the interview with Kris Maddigan. See ya.
Later. Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to Nintendo Directors. My name is Brad Beyer, and I'm here with Mark Lego and our very, very special guest here today. This is the man who is behind the most excellent soundtrack from a game that you're all maybe familiar with. It's called Cuphead. This is Kris Maddigan. Thanks for being with us, Kris.
My pleasure, gentlemen.
And we do have a bit of a disagreement on this. So first and foremost, settle this once and for all. Is it pronounced Cuphead or Cuphead?
It is the second.
The second, all right, Cuphead.
Oh,
all right, see ya. All right, no.
No.
It's the more French. Well, it's more coupe.
Oh, Cuphead.
See, none of us. That's right.
All right. Well, great. That was what we wanted to get straightened out. Thank you for being with us today. And
take care.
No.
See ya.
See you guys later.
All right. Actually, go ahead.
Yeah, that's
Why don't
cool.
you ask the first question?
Well, guys, first of all, obviously, Kris, we want to thank you so much for joining us here today. We're super excited to chat with you, and it's just gonna. I've had obviously for those who have played Cuphead, obviously it's not a Nintendo game specifically, but honestly, I think it should be. It's got all the aesthetics and all the awesome kind of bright and cheeriness about it that would be. But we're just really excited to talk to you kind of about not only the game itself, the music. Obviously, that's what you're all about here, but also just like the process of what goes into making the soundtrack for a game, and so all the process that goes with that. So we're gonna jump right in here. I'm just obviously, if you could just start out, Kris, just tell us a little bit about your background and where maybe obviously where you got your start in music, your interest, where'd you go to school, all those, and how'd you get to kind of where you are today?
So I grew up wanting to be. I'll shorten the story a little bit, but I grew up wanting to be a rock drummer.
Okay.
So that's a pretty standard
goal
for me kid. And so that kind of didn't happen, but did not happen. But so I'm just eating chocolate now too. So
That's
my mouth is full.
no worries.
Yeah, so I kind of grew up wanting to do that. My mom was like, "Well, you should take something a bit more useful." So I did piano for a little bit, and I really didn't like it.
Okay.
And then we kind of compromised on taking legit classical percussion lessons. So when I think I was around 10 maybe, and did that for a while. Also wasn't at the time really what I was interested in. I still wanted to play. I mean, young boy wants to play in a rock band. So so I finally got a real set of drums when I was, I think, 12 or 13, and then just practiced a lot, and that was kind of my main thing. And I ended up playing a lot of rock band stuff in high school, and played in the concert band as well, did more percussion stuff. And after high school, didn't really do much for a couple of years. And was very fortunate that I saw a poster for the local university percussion ensemble concert And so I was like, hey, I used to do that. That sounds cool. Check that out. And that was kind of like, I went there and I'm not sure if it was a good concert or not, but I was just kind of like, I think it was, but I didn't have a frame of reference. I was just more like sort of staring like, wow, this is pretty cool. So I'd like to get back into doing this maybe.
Right.
So that was kind of that. And I did an undergrad in percussion, and then moved to Toronto and did
percussion performance, you said? Or
percussion performance, yeah.
Okay.
And then moved to Toronto and studied at the Conservatory Glenn Gould School here. It's part of the Royal Conservatory. And did artist diploma also in percussion there. And have been here ever since, doing various things.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Oh, I actually wanted to, I'm going off script here from our list of questions, but I wanted to dig more into the rock thing. Who was your favorite rock band growing up?
Well, I wanted to play, we had 4 cassette tapes in the car. David Bowie, Let's Dance.
Sweet.
Which started a lifelong Bowie obsession, but we had Let's Dance, and we had Smurfs album, and the Traveling Wilburys first album, and then Billy Joel's Greatest Hits.
Okay.
And so I really wanted to be, and we had a VHS concert too of Billy Joel live in Leningrad, which is a great concert. I think it's from '88 or '89.
Cool. And
he might have been the first Western rock performer to play after the wall came down. I think it's something like that. So it was a big deal concert, but it's a great concert, and it's just like I just really wanted to be, Liberty DeVito, who was his drummer. I just looked like he was having so much fun, and so that was kind of, I don't know, it's like you always sort of gravitate towards, I guess, one person. Throughout high school, I was definitely I got really into Jimmy Chamberlain. He was kind of my idol for a long time. He's still, everything he does is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that dude had some chops. He could play.
He still does. He practices every day. Even though I think he's in like a tech startup guy now or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But he's still. I think he just released another solo album actually.
Oh, cool.
A few months ago. I haven't checked it out, but and other standard Elton Jones, maybe my favorite jazz drummer. Some younger guy like Ted Poore, people have heard of. I think he's awesome. I have to look at I do have a list of favorite drummers. But
okay.
Actually, Tony, probably my favorite drummer of all time is Tony Allen.
Okay.
He played with, he was Fela Kuti's drummer.
Yeah.
For a time, and Fela gets like the credit for starting Afrobeat, but I think Tony Allen also is, on the ground floor of that, and deserves a hell of a lot of credit for that as well. But
cool.
But his feel is just like insane. So good. So yeah.
Nice.
Anyways.
Cool. Well, we read in your bio that you've performed with the legends Jim Blackley and Terry Clark. And then do you have
I studied.
You studied with them.
Wow.
Oh, okay. Well, do you have a favorite story from those experiences, or like perhaps like a most valuable gleaned thing that you gleaned from getting to work with them?
I don't know. I mean, Jim taught Terry as well. Jim taught for like 50 or 60 years or something. I don't know. He has a really interesting story too. He just passed away last summer. He was maybe like late 80s, I think, or 90 even. So I didn't study with him, there was kind of like, I think, more of a prime period, like 20 or 30 years ago. But he still, I think it was still the same routine. Like, he teaches one student a day for 2 hours. And go once a month. So he only has 20 students really at a time.
Wow.
It's really interesting, his whole approach to philosophy. But he's from Scotland, or he was.
Right.
And he was a pipe band guy. And he was all into that. And I think he was I get the impression that he was maybe thought jazz was not a legit art form at all. And the story goes, he was walking past club, I forget which club, might have been in New York City. And he was walking past and Max Roach was playing. And he was like, wow, what is this? And he went and checked it out. And from that point on, and he was in his 30s at that point. And from that point on, he devoted himself to learning the art of jazz drumming and teaching it. And his whole, I mean, this is, I'm going to like wax too much on this, but his whole, like, what I got from him is his entire, a good part of his approach is extremely, extremely slow practice. And then focusing on the touch, I mean, particularly on the ride cymbal, because that's the main.
Yeah.
In theory, you can show up at a jazz gig with just a ride cymbal and be able to drive a band, essentially.
Yeah.
He you spend months playing these exercises for a couple hours a day at quarter note 40, and it's just you really, everyone's like you should practice slow, and I don't think anyone really does it. But you study with Jim, like you have to do it, and you sort of you start to understand more and more like how the small gears and the clockwork kind of works when you're going that slow. And then also because he's got this kind of like sweeping approach and kind of changed my grip in the right hand, and you end up, your touch on the ride cymbal is what becomes important. So like the feel and the time gets solidified, but also there's sort of touch thing. And so I was studying with him for like a couple of years, but I think I studied with him for like 3 months, and I didn't really have many gigs in that time. And then I had my first gig after being with him for 3 months. And it was like, you don't really realize when you're practicing that slowly what's happening. And then I played this gig and I was like, holy, like, this feels way more solid than it ever has. And obviously I wasn't playing, it wasn't like a whole game quarter note 42.
That's going to bring the house down.
Yeah. So I mean, that's what I got from Jim. And I mean, Tara, I think in this, particularly around here, because Jim was in Toronto for a long time, and then he was north of Toronto for 10 or 15 years. Like, this has got a lot of students in this area, so his sort of teaching methods have been sort of put up through there. But he was a big fan of Max Roach, and huge Elton Jones fan, so I think a lot of his stuff sort of, his exercises and concepts come out of their playing. Jake Hanna too, he was a big Jake Hanna guy, so anyway, sorry,
that's all right. We can totally nerd out about all this awesome stuff as directors here. And I know all of our students practice with metronomes very effectively. Right?
All the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, he uses or what he had me. I had that Meet the Bass Player album, and the first track on that is like quarter note 40, and I think the second track is like quarter note 50, and then quarter note 60.
Yeah.
And it's just like when if you're not just practicing slowly, but you're thinking about all of the mechanics and the sound you're making, it's
yeah, makes a difference.
It takes a while. If you have the patience, then the rewards are like,
yeah,
you can't even. And I'm working on some today. I'm finally up to like track 8 on the CD. I'm slowly like working up.
That's right.
Doing all the same exercises, but just
awesome.
Doing that. So yeah.
So we just want to. So you got your training. Obviously, you did a lot of that stuff. I assume that you did your drum training. You did all this. I assume that included some composition work as well.
Not really. This was the first thing that I had ever written for in this context.
Okay.
I had done a little bit of basically everything else that I've written. You can hear on my SoundCloud page. So there's one new jazz tune. Right. I think that's the terminology. And that I wrote for. I wrote it for a long time ago. That's really inspired by the Cuphead trio. And if anyone, you gotta check him out if you're into more contemporary jazz.
Okay.
Awesome. And Ted Forbes was the drummer in that group for a long time, as I mentioned earlier. But so I mean, I wrote a tune like that, and I finally played it on one of my recitals, like 4 or 5 years ago, and that's on there. And then I did a bunch of soundscapey, delay marimba kind of stuff for this other art project.
Oh, fun.
And that was kind of it. Competition. So I mean, when they asked me to do this originally, I said hell no.
Well, can you tell us about
find somebody who's actually done it.
How did you get connected? Because Chad and Jared, the Moldenhauer brothers, they're the ones who kind of spearheaded this whole Cuphead game. How did you get connected with them?
I've been best friends with them since about grade 5.
Wow.
We grew up
really
2 blocks apart. So yeah.
Oh wow. So
I
you
was
knew
over
him.
there at Chad's place on Easter.
Oh, really?
So I see, yeah, Jared's still in Saskatchewan, but I see Chad occasionally. So he lives about an hour away. Nice, yeah.
That's awesome.
So you were childhood friends. You just grew up down the road. That's
Grew up in their basement playing games on their couch.
Favorite game from your childhood with them then?
I mean, we played a lot of. Jared and I in particular played a lot of Virtua Fighter 2.
Okay.
It's a game called Death Tank. Not the remake. I think the remake is not good. It's the original Death Tank. And someone desperately needs to make this game re-available for people. It's the best party game of all time. It is on. You basically need to have Quake and Duke Nukem on Sega Saturn, and then you need to have a save file from one, and then you go and you put the other game in, and then there's like a bonus option to play this game called Death Tank.
Huh.
And it's up to 6 players. Is awesome. Played that a lot. Bomberman, stuff like that. They played those two, and then some of the cousins, Ryan and Tyler, who are also part of the studio in VHR now. They played a lot more fighting games. They're big in Street Fighter and stuff. I usually played more RPGs on my own, but
okay,
sweet.
So I actually grew up playing with them somewhat, but oftentimes just watching them play.
Right.
They were more hardcore about it than I was. So
you get one choice on this. Favorite RPG of all time?
I mean, the cliche one would be Final Fantasy 6 or 7.
6. It's 6. Okay.
Maybe my most played one, I would say, would be Phantasy Star 1.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Good game.
Yeah.
So you still play games regularly these days as well?
Not really. I don't have that much time.
Right.
I played some games that have been like, okay, I should play these, or I just beat Bastion.
Okay.
I've had it for a long time, but I'm doing panel with Aaron Ford in a couple of days with PAX. So I'm trying to check out everyone's music who's on this.
Yeah, right.
That's a fantastic game.
So Bastion was great. Played Inside, didn't fall. I played The Witness all last year. It was one of the best gaming experiences I've ever had, but I played it really slowly.
Right.
Something else. I just played Fez finally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fez was fun.
Yep.
So I'm more interested in playing games which are works of art, or have a historically important, even if they're fairly recent. So
totally.
Cool.
Okay, so I'm just kind of curious from an outsider looking into this. Obviously you're close friends with the Milton Hauer, so maybe it was a little bit different than it would normally be. But where does a composer start in the process for making a soundtrack for the game? Where do you, at what point in the development cycle do you kind of come in, and how did they pitch it to you? Hey.
I think they had been thinking about making a game for a long time. And this is where one of the rumors that they've been working on a game for 10 years had come in.
Right.
It's definitely not true. They had talked about it. They were talking about making a game in the 90s. It's something they've always wanted to do. But I think I got brought in the summer of 2013, and I think by that point they were still fairly early in the Cuphead process.
Mm-hmm.
I think they had finally finalized what they were actually going to make, because they also had a bunch of different ideas when they finally decided now we actually have the technology to make our own game. So it was fairly early, and there wasn't actually that much freedom in terms of what to do, because they knew that they wanted, Chad in particular knew that he wanted 30 big men, so that was kind of how it was pitched from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, no, find somebody else. Not that I wasn't interested, but I was, wasn't really my field of expertise.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a small, at the time it was a very small in-house kind of game, and it was a lot smaller. So they were why don't you just do it? So I was okay. And I wasn't originally going to do any of the arranging. I was just going to write the music and then pass it off to an actual big band arranger.
Right.
And then, as I was having a difficult time finding someone who wanted to take on that part of the project, it kind of just dawned on me that I should just learn how to do it myself also. There's books.
Right, right.
Yeah, and I was fortunate that I found a really good teacher as well. So he sort of helped a lot, and he was really keen on the project. He's that John Herberman. He's the guy who watched the making of videos. He's doing the conducting on there. He got really he got on the business side of things. And I was bringing all my stuff to him, and we were working on charts, and he was sort of teaching me, and he did the conducting for it. So he was. I think initially he was also kind of skeptical, and then it was after a certain point he was like, "Okay, this project is pretty cool." So,
yeah. That's awesome. So you said it was around 2013 or so that you started officially kind of.
Yeah, it was
work on it.
I think 2013.
Okay.
And it was a slow process, and I went back to I was actually gonna do my master's in jazz at the University of Toronto, and so I started that in the fall, and it was a terrible idea. I had no time. So I did a year of that, and it was very useful. I met a lot of it's a good reason you make good connections, and I probably got enough of the theory and arranging grounding there to sort of have a good place to start as well. So I necessarily didn't get too much writing done that first year, but I was always doing a lot of listening and sort of independent study, and then also just being in school is useful for that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, obviously you're a big jazz guy. It seems to kind of bleed out of you. The soundtrack itself, as I listened through it, you covered almost every style. You've got, your traditional jazz and your stride piano, ragtime, swing, bebop, everything's there. I think that's one of the coolest, selling points about it is that there's so much variety within that same kind of style. I mean, is there any particular, obviously jazz is a passion for you, but anything particular that you really enjoy within that setting that you like one more or the other? Or?
I've always liked all of the styles that were in there, but I've never really sat down to study them as intensely as I ended up doing.
Yeah.
I definitely gained a much stronger appreciation for particularly Scott Joplin.
I'm sorry, what?
Scott Joplin.
Scott Joplin?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Studying his works, you realize that he was everything he wrote was very elegant, and I think it was a lot more refined than a lot of the other ragtime that was being, because that was a popular genre at that during the century,
right?
And there was a lot being written, but none of it really his music is totally classical in a sense,
right.
Very intelligently composed. You can't add or take away a single note to make any of his tunes any better. They're exactly perfect. So his stuff, was great. I really loved. I've always been an Ellington fan, but particularly really getting into his stuff too. It's he reminds me of Bowie. They're both they were just fearless experimenters, and we're doing you can listen to a couple seconds of an Ellington tune from any era and it's him because nothing else sounds like it. And he just kind of was not afraid of failure in any sense, and which is not to say that he failed, but I think he was always writing. He was so experimental in a lot of ways. So I found that inspiring because I didn't want any of the tunes to be super there were some that were definitely the ideas are maybe generic in a sense, but I wanted them to have a quirkiness to them, which was maybe not common in a lot of that music of that era.
Yeah.
In a sense. So I was trying to approach the whole writing part as if in some parallel world, Big Band and the Golden Age of video games were coming up at the same time. What would jazz composers, how would they be writing for video games? And not some guy in the 21st century writing 30s music for an 80s game. So that was, it was important to try and really get the spirit of stuff from that era, but then try to make it unique to itself.
Yeah.
So, speaking about the soundtrack and okay, you had the quality of the musicianship is fantastic. Yeah. And so where did you, what was the process of locating the musicians? Where did you find them? And then how long was the recording process in total, combined with rehearsals and whatnot?
We're very blessed in Toronto that we have I think, a much stronger music scene than people outside of Toronto maybe realize. And there was a point, I think, around when, excuse me, when the E3 trailer hit that was super popular, that sort of took them from making this small indie game to getting a bit more like Microsoft support, and then they were like, okay, we can go all in on this.
Right.
And that was the point where they were like, okay, we're gonna definitely splurge and hire a real band. Yeah. And instantly in my mind, I just said, okay, we got to hire the Boss Brass. And their Boss Brass, they were around from the 70s until I think around 2000.
Okay.
And their leader, Rob McConnell, I think he might have passed away in about 2010. I forget my dates. I can look them up again.
Right.
But they were like arguably Canada's most important big band. And they have a huge, output. And obviously they were. And a lot of them are still, they're freelance players, So it was kind of like, let's just hire these musicians.
Yeah.
And I think it was also particularly for the big band sessions, we needed people who were familiar with each other playing. Like there needed to be a synergy there that you can't get from. Totally. You can hire people who don't know each other to come in and read charts perfectly.
Right.
We could have also done that, but there would have been something missing, I think. So it was important for us that we get a bunch of folks who know each other and played together for decades. So at least for that stuff, like the Ragtime Band is a different group of musicians. That was in a lot of those cases. I just wanted to hire people that were friends of mine or I wanted to work with.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Makes sense.
Because I played drums on those ones.
Which ones was
like the Ragtime, like the world map things?
Oh yeah.
And
so you did get to partake?
Elder Kettle. Yeah, I did a bit of
okay.
Like drums on that. I played out like the xylophone stuff. There's like one or two things that have xylophone, and most of the percussion except the Brazilian percussion, I outsourced that to an active specialist. But
okay.
In a lot of cases, I knew what I wanted, so it was just easier for me to come in. Right. So yeah, but that was it was not really hard to find musicians here and we wanted to keep it local as well. It's important that we tried to hire as many people as we could from Toronto, and we essentially, with the exception of like one person who was a buddy of mine was in Saskatchewan at the time. I think everyone else is from here. So, there was a couple days in the studio for the Ragtime, and then there was, multiple sporadic sessions for like solo piano and percussion overdubs for things and other, small things. But the bulk of the work would have been the big band sessions, and I think that was 5 or 6 days in the studio, and then we had 2 3-hour rehearsals, one for each session. So it was not. I mean,
right? They're professionals.
They're readers.
Yeah.
So I think they definitely showed up at the first rehearsal and were like, what is this idiot brought us? Like, these are insane. And there was a certain amount of like, are these tempo markings correct? But I think after sort of the first rehearsal, I think they were like,
it wasn't quarter note equals 40. Sorry.
Yeah, no. Well, they're all marked, so like quarter note 300 plus. Like, are these right?
Right.
So, but they definitely, I think after the initial shock wore off, they were like, okay, this is, we're up for this challenge.
Cool. Well, and they absolutely were. I mean, as I listened through this, like, because the way you write in a lot of these is just incredibly, one lick follows another. Follows another, and you just get these like, and all of a sudden the bass trombone just throws something in like, blah, like, in the middle of everything, and then so it's like they were exactly on where they were supposed to be, and the tone quality was awesome, the improv was amazing, so there's just a lot of great stuff going on there, and you said, so were there tunes, those piano tunes like in the platforming levels of Cuphead? Was that solo piano, did you say, or are there like 4 hands things going on there as well in some of them?
Each one of those is all of those tunes except one is my buddy from Saskatchewan.
Okay. Wow. So he does the whole thing. That's a lot of
a
notes.
monster.
That's so many notes.
And then we did like the piccolo and the percussion we overdone separately. Some of them they were conceived as piano tracks, and then Chad was like, no, we gotta have percussion. And I was like, no, that's not how this was. I didn't write it with that in mind.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Cool.
That's fun.
So, I mean, also none of it is supposed to sound easy.
Right.
So there are things like
you succeeded.
Yeah. Well, it's supposed to be manic. Like if it sounds too easy, it's like the opening to Rite of Spring. You know, like people can play it now, but I mean, I read somewhere that Stravinsky, like he was like, well, every 10 years it should be taken up a half step because as soon as they're just going to keep getting better. And it's not supposed to sound. It's supposed to sound like you're really struggling. You know?
Right.
And it's not like this is supposed to sound like people are like struggling, but it's not supposed to, you know, it's supposed to sound like real musicians like on the edge of their feet. You know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Wow.
That's cool.
They so how do you approach, I mean, you're going through all your tune after tune. I mean, you got what 2.5, 3 hours of music in this, something like that?
And it's almost
Yeah, it's a lot of music. Like for each new tune, what was your approach to that? So like, did the guys show you the level you're working on, or was it just kind of like, hey, we need 6 really, you know, fast bebop charts and then a swing, or, you know, like how did that work?
That was essentially it. We didn't like everything was kind of getting worked on simultaneously.
Okay.
So a lot of what I would write, I would just throw as many ideas down as I could, and then put them into Baelius and sort of arrange them in a certain way, and send them on to Chad. And then he would say, you either say like, this is not going to work anywhere, or this is going to work, or this will work great for this level. And then usually from that point we would, like the tune for the train level didn't start out with all the train sounds. It was just at one point he was like, oh, this will work good for the train, and then we sort of reverse engineered the writing at that point. Let's try and make it a bit more trainy and spot, you know. So very little of, in terms of bosses, not very much except for like the last boss stuff. Those are specifically written for last boss.
Right.
But mostly everything else was either completely arbitrary or random, or early in the process they were like, okay, this tune's going to work well for this, and I would try and spruce it up a bit in that sense.
Yeah.
But then in terms of, like, we knew that we wanted all the platforming stuff to be ragtime, so there was just a point where Chad was like, okay, we have one platforming tune, and then we expanded the game, so now we have 5 more. So I just knew to write five more fast.
Surprise.
Piano, yeah.
Easy.
And, you know, world map stuff, I just wanted each one to sort of be its own thing, but different. Same theme, but everyone just has a different style. So.
Right.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, Dramatic Fanatic. Real tap dancer?
Yeah.
Wow.
Right in the studio?
Real. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So if you're not familiar, for the listeners, there's a tune called Dramatic Fanatic, and it's just throughout it, basically, there's just these tap dance breaks, and to my ears, it sounded like it was being live, you know, done live, which it obviously, like you were just saying, it is. That's awesome. How did you know that? Pardon me?
Toronto tap. That's Alison Topham.
Oh, okay.
She's a classic Toronto-based tap dancer.
That's awesome. Because I have there at the school I teach at. Before I got there, they did a piece that required tap dancing, and they just had like the front part of 2 tap dancing shoes on drumsticks and played it on a board. Yeah. So I know you can do that, but yeah, having the real thing is much better.
That thought crossed my mind at some point, and I was just like, no, that's a bit of real. But that tune, I mean, that's another one that was not designed specifically for that level, but that was always designed to have a bunch of tap dance breaks.
Fun.
And specifically to be a tap dance sort of feature.
Wow.
And I think that's only because I ended up watching some Nicholas Brothers videos from the 30s.
Okay.
And if you haven't checked out any Nicholas Brothers, unreal tap dancers in that era. There's a few videos of them. There's one with Cab Calloway, and it's just amazing they don't kill themselves.
Oh, I've totally seen one. I'm black and white where they're like swinging their legs around and like kind of going in It looks almost like...
Well, there's one where they're going down the stairs and they keep jumping over each other's heads.
Yes.
And
I've seen that. It's
and
insane.
It's just like, yeah. So, but they were like around till like they were in their 80s or 90s, I think. Like they both of them lived quite a long time.
Wow.
But that was, I saw that and I was like, the whole game was such a kitchen sink thing, right? Like there was a cool video or two that came across my periphery. I was like, well, we should get this style in there.
Yeah.
We should add, there should be, why isn't there a tune with tap dancing? That was
awesome. Cool.
And they were very, fortunately, Chad and Jared were very, like I kind of had carte blanche to write what I wanted in that sense.
Yeah.
So,
do they have musical backgrounds really at all, or was it just kind of like, hey, Kris, just you handle it?
Chad has a bit of a piano background. I don't know how he played for a while. I don't know what his grade level is,
Right.
but he's got a very strong intuition, I think, when it comes to music.
Okay. Cool.
And I mean, he's also he listens to a lot of stuff. He listens to a lot of everything. So he's actually fairly with it when it comes to what's popular now and like other music stuff. So he always explained what he was looking for very well because he kind of knew exactly what it was. So, and there was also like he would say like we need a tune for this kind of cutscene or whatever, and I'd write something, and he's like, no, this isn't right at all. It's good at this, and I'd be like, no, based on what you told me, this is perfect. and as it turns out, he was right.
Okay.
Because he knew what he wanted, but
right,
sure.
I was just not sharing the vision. So,
right.
But he was great just in terms of he knows he's got a strong musical intuition.
Cool.
So you said for some of these you were doing some percussion on, but for like the rest of the days in the studio, were you just kind of like in the back, by the computer there listening and like giving notes and comments, or were you just kind of like on the stands?
I was just paying attention generally and like kind of doing my best to keep track of takes. We would do 3 or 4 takes tops of the tune.
Okay. And
like just pay attention, see which takes were the best, and kind of it just saves time in mixing.
Right.
So,
cool.
But or if something was radically wrong and no one was really catching it, I would say, like,
right.
This is missing this. But generally, once musicians were there and John was leading the sessions, I kind of stayed out of the way. So
okay.
So real tap dancer. What about monkey? Floral Fury, there's something that sounds like a monkey in there. Is there a monkey in the recording studio?
There's a pika. It's a Brazilian friction drum.
Oh wow! All right. Not standard middle school band percussion. So
No.
There's monkeys back there.
Yeah, monkey. Oh yeah, there are monkeys in my percussion section. So yeah, okay.
Okay. That was I play in a samba group in Toronto, and I've also studied Brazilian percussion for a number of years with a local teacher, Alan Edmonton, who's like absolutely a guru on all this stuff. And he took a group of us to Brazil for Carnival. I guess it must have been it would have been 2 years ago, like in February. And he didn't really know I was working on the project, and we ended up talking about it, and I showed him the E3 trailer, and he's like, oh man, you have to write me something planned. So then that kind of just got me thinking, like, oh yeah, it would be cool to sort of write a Brazilian tune for him to play Brazilian percussion.
Yeah.
It's great. And then but what's Brazilian from that era? So It was, that tune is just a combination of what I was hearing in the Carmen Miranda music, which she is great. Carmen Miranda is awesome. And Brazilian carnival vibes. And carnival is an old tradition as well.
Right.
So that drum does it kind of work like a straw through a plastic lid at a fast food place? Like I'm trying to imagine how
essentially, but it would be fixed to the lid.
Oh, okay.
The thumbs, which are the friction is coming from rubbing the stick and not rubbing the stick through the head.
Okay, cool.
That was just a joke, but
I'm trying to think of how else it could work.
I gotta look that up because I don't know. I can't even picture it.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
All right.
Very cool.
Well, actually, I knew that was also like as soon as I was like, okay, we're writing a Brazilian tune, there's definitely going to be extended speaker breaks. It's such a great sound.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So there's also a couple of tunes in here that were sung by a barbershop quartet. Did you write those as well? And just kind of, did you know the people that performed those too? Or
so I mean, if you watch some of the really early Cuphead stuff from like the games demos from conferences like 3 years ago, you'll hear like the title screen music has a barbershop on it.
Okay.
And that was just something that Chad initiated. He got in contact with this group in a local group called Shocked in This Prime.
Okay.
And
yes.
they do a great name. It's a good group of guys for sure. And so they wrote. I didn't write that one at all. Okay. They wrote that one. But it was kind of like it wasn't like meant to be like a final sort of game thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew that it was just something that Chad wanted done. I think for to have something on the title screen that games conferences. So I always knew that I wanted to bring them back and do like more legit. So we just once the story was a bit more hashed out, I just started working on that, and then they got me hooked up with the official Barbershop Society of America's arranging manual. And I mean, they're like it's like a total. You can't find any information about how to arrange a barbershop on the internet. It's like secret.
Oh.
So I've got a copy of this book, and it's like the official. It's like the only, basically the book for arranging a barbershop. It's like 2 inches thick, and so I was kind of studying out of that and started figuring out. And it's interesting. Like it's radically different than arranging for anything else. Like in order to get the barbershop sound, there are things that you do, and
super close harmonies and stuff.
Close harmonies, and like the lead voice is plays the second from the top. Mm-hmm. Which is interesting, and there's just a lot of things which are rules that you learned elsewhere that you have to sort of relearn because they're not the same.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I took that the opening movie tune. It was a vocal tune I had written, but it wasn't really barbershoppy, and so I had to reverse engineer it. And I mean, I'm not really. It's a good tune. I'm not totally happy with it in terms of being a barbershop tune because it wasn't ever really conceived as that specifically. Mm-hmm. So there was a point where I was like, these guys are coming into the studio anyway, so I might as well I want to try my hand at writing a more legit tune from scratch. So that's where the quick break tune
right
comes as well. Yeah, it was just like an exercise.
And that's got some really clever lyrics to it too, which is fun.
That was Chad's idea because I had a whole bunch of other. That was the third or fourth iteration because I wanted to write one that was like. That would play after you beat the game if you just left it on the black screen or whatever initially, and I was like something about try New Game Plus now or something. And then I wanted to write one that was like, sorry, this game got delayed so much. And Chad was like, no, this is all way too meta. You can't do it. Why don't you just write one about taking a break?
Nice.
That's hilarious.
That's how that ended up coming back.
So Cuphead obviously has been. A little bit successful,
slightly,
maybe, yeah. Mm-hmm. They've won all kinds of awards, but there's even been some awards for you, and I think it was you were nominated for the Game Awards Best Soundtrack award, and you even was it Dice? I think you won Best Original Music, or was that?
Let me pull up my list here.
Okay.
Yes.
I do have. Well, I had to I needed to sort of organize what.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it won the Steam Best Soundtrack.
Okay.
Which is definitely contentious on Steam.
Yeah. But, of course.
Surprisingly.
Yeah.
I mean, there's thousands of games.
That was really because that's kind of voted on by fans, I
think.
Right. Dice Award. There was a Gang Award. There was 2 Gang Awards. One of them was for audio, though, and I think that's more for the game audio and less for music.
You can claim it. That's you.
Yeah.
I am picking it up at PAX this weekend. So.
Oh, nice! There you go.
And then it was on the Billboard charts for 13 weeks, I think, which was
awesome,
hilarious.
Yeah.
and it was. I mean, we got nominated for a Juno in Canada, which is like the Canadian Grammys. So that was also unexpected.
That's sweet.
So it's been.
there was another show, South by Southwest, right? I think.
Yeah, there was a South by Southwest nomination.
I think you got one of those too. Yeah.
It's a BAFTA one, which I don't think they haven't had the BAFTA Game Awards.
Yep,
that one hasn't been announced yet.
Oh, okay.
So,
very cool.
Yeah. So I mean, it's been very, the recognition was lovely, and I'm very glad that people like it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, like, what would you say you're like maybe most proud of, or maybe a couple, I don't know, a couple of tracks, or just maybe the overall experience, or what you kind of take away from it, or?
I'm just happy that I got started on it. I think starting any major project that you have no qualifications to be doing is really
yeah.
It's an intimidating prospect, right?
Yeah.
Totally.
So even if you do have the qualifications, like I've read actually been reading a lot of books on the creative process and other such things related to that, and they all kind of say the same one, a couple of the same things. Like getting started is by far the most difficult, no matter how experienced you are. So, I mean, I remember 5 years ago, I had no idea where how do you start something like this,
right?
Right. And you just work on it. I mean, the other thing is you just work on it every day, and eventually, you make your mistakes and you erase them, and then you make some right, and it's kind of so that was just literally the act of actually doing something. Which was totally out of my comfort zone. Was the learning experience, I think. Especially as this, there's a lot of tunes that I'm quite proud of. There's some on there that one tune in particular, which I did reload. It's on some people's favorite tunes of the game list. So I mean, you can't. I'm not going to. I won't say what tune that is. But
well, especially as the stakes kept getting raised, right? Because you started off, the project was supposed to be so small in scale, and then all of a sudden, sort of launched to
the magnifying lens.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody was focused on it more, so you probably got a little more. Well, though I guess you'd started probably by that point, and people liked what you had done, so maybe that was a little easier. But
Chad and Jared are also not always the best with like. It would be like, okay, we need to. Oh, by the way, there's like 4 more bosses. It's kind of like they're already like way into the process. So, like, there were certainly tunes on there which were tunes that I had discarded because I was like, these aren't good at all. And they turned out to be like one of them. Sugarland Shimmy was one of them, which now is one of my favorite tunes. But at the time, it just ended up in the drawer. Carnival for Fuffle also was one that got discarded. There's one more too that I was thinking about this the other day. Like there was a handful. Oh, High Seas Hijinks.
I love that
Another one that I was like,
great.
This is I was like, this is not that good, so I'm just gonna leave it. And then they were like, we need all these tunes. So I was like, okay.
Yeah,
go back and find, instead of trying to come up with something new, just revamp what's there and see. Okay. So. But then some of them, I think Pyramid Peril is my favorite tune in the game, and I'm really quite proud of that one.
Okay.
It came out really easily, and it's less derivative of some tunes than a lot of them. Like it has the most amount of my own personality, I think, in it. So, and it was later in the process too. At that point, I was a lot more comfortable and just better at writing. So.
Well, I'll say for myself that I've really, again, I've easily spent many more hours listening to this soundtrack than I have actually playing Cuphead, just because I'm very bad at video games and I suck at Cuphead. Just so the problem was I would hear like the first 15 seconds of each tune and I'd be like, wow, this is great. I want to hear the rest of it because I could never make it past that point.
We definitely wrote way too much music. Every tune is twice as long as it needs to be. But we also made a decision early on that it makes sense to try and make the soundtrack stand alone as itself, like on its own.
Yeah.
And not short snippets that are just going to repeat sort of thing. Like every tune, you can't hear the endings of most of these tunes in the game. And not even because like you're either going to be dead by that point or it's going to lose. Like they just aren't there because you beat the boss, then it goes to you win music.
Right.
So. But it's still weird. It made sense to be like, why write 95% of the tune and fade it out?
Right.
What are we, the 80s? So, yeah, so it was respecting the art in a sense too, just trying to make a standalone, an album that works on its own and just stands by itself.
Yeah,
was important.
definitely.
So, yeah.
Is it available?
That was the worst thing about 80s music. It just fades out. Like every single song.
Yep.
Right?
There's not one song from the 80s that ends.
And then there was the Police, who didn't know when to fade out a song. Fantastic band, but just like, here's 3 minutes of a vamp at the end that we're going to fade out eventually, but when? Anyways, I love the Police, but
I think that they might have had some ego
yeah.
flashes there. So I've heard. Or no.
So what's next? Is like what's your future plans? More in video game music, or or do you think maybe you're going to wash your hands of that, or do you feel like you've got to strike while the iron's hot, or where are you going with this?
I mean, I have really very little urge to write anything. I don't want to become a composer.
Yeah,
and
sure.
That's it, like a full time. Which is like I already have a career as a musician, like as a performer. So, like this was a lot of work.
Yeah,
and I don't work very fast. So to willingly subject myself to this again, it would have to be a very special project. If they want to make a different game, or if they want to make a sequel, I would love to work with them, the studio NDHR again. If only because I know that we work at about the same speed.
Yeah,
slow.
Right.
Like I can't, I guess it would be great to have the skill set to be able to write music for like a weekly television show or something. But to me, that's way too much pressure.
That's insane. Yeah.
So it would be cool to write. I did a panel last month with Peter Chapman and Ryan Hemsworth. His name. I always screw up his last name, unfortunately. In Toronto, and Peter Chapman wrote the music for Guacamole, and then Ryan did a bunch of stuff at Ubisoft, but also did music for Lovers in a Dangerous Space Time.
Okay.
And I mean, like those are more classic video game soundtracks, and like they're talking about the layering process, and how they repeat, and then Guacamole, you go to the underworld, and it's the same tune, and things change, and like everything they were talking about was so over my head because I just wrote waves and we repeat them at the end. It's just like a full tune.
Right.
So I think it would be interesting to at some point. Like I don't have the technology to do that either. I have to get a full rig or whatever. But it would be interesting to write more traditional video game music at least once.
Yeah.
But, right.
Speaking
to sort of learn that skill set. But
so like chiptune kind of stuff then. So like. Do you have like a favorite like retro video game composer or not?
Or soundtrack or?
Well, I mean, Uematsu.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah.
Mitsuda, I love also.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I like a lot of the stuff. I don't really know a lot of the composers either. There's a lot of games that I like the music for, but I don't know much about who wrote them.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Fair enough. All right.
I like the pretty classic, standard answer to that.
Yeah.
Symphony of the Night. I love that soundtrack, but I don't really
Oh, yeah, you're.
And yeah.
The great soundtrack though.
Yeah.
But
that is good.
So cool. I don't think I have any surprises of.
He's great.
I love the Bastion soundtrack. It's awesome.
Oh man, it's so good. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So
I like the Braid soundtrack as well for doing other indie games from that time period.
Yeah.
Braids was great, but
I feel that was also just through composed tunes that.
I think you're right. Yeah.
I don't think it was written specifically for that. I mean, it worked. It was exactly perfect.
Yep.
But yeah. I mean, I guess that's what's the beauty of this whole thing is that you can there's so many different styles you can write in, so many different ways you can write because there's so many different games.
Yep.
Like the variety in this industry right now is unbelievable, and it's ever expanding. So,
but I'm definitely glad to see that because jazz, it seems, is not necessarily on the highest level of everyone's where everyone would put oh man, that's a sweet soundtrack, you know. So the fact that this is getting the recognition that it has gotten, you know, and it's classic, or at least classically styled jazz music that just it really swings, and I'm just very glad that can kind of come back into the public sphere.
That was also what, you know, when the E3 trailer hit, we were very cognizant of that as well. Like there was originally I wanted to do good music or a good job because my good friends asked me to write music for their game, so I didn't want it to suck. and then when we realized like, oh, this might actually be like a market for this. Right. There might actually be a lot of people playing it. They're just like, I don't want to write bad music because I don't look up the moron. But also, I want to, out of respect for the art form, it's like this has the potential to introduce these classic artists to a wide swath of people who maybe have never checked them out.
Yeah.
So, which is why it was important to me to include in the, I mean, I don't know if you get it with the game, but like you look on the Bandcamp page, you buy the soundtrack on Bandcamp, all my influences there from game composers to jazz composers, they're all listed there, and it's like a starting point.
Right.
Yeah.
People want to check this out, or every musician on the soundtrack has a bunch of their own projects that you Google them, and you know, you'll find some other interesting, radically different than Cuphead, but it will still be like good music. You know, like
that's cool.
So I guess we also hope, you know, as much as they wanted people to rediscover classic animation,
sure,
we're hoping people might rediscover classic big band music.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that because I know you can buy the soundtrack with the game when you buy it, like on Steam or whatever. But I wasn't sure if it was on iTunes or you said Bandcamp. That's the place where you can find it?
It's on iTunes.
Is it on?
Bandcamp is easier. It's cheaper on Bandcamp, I think.
Okay.
The Bandcamp, it is on Spotify and Apple Music, I believe, as well.
Yep.
All right.
I listen to it on Apple Music, so that's where I listen to it. So.
Yeah, it's out there. If people people look for it, they can find it.
Sweet,
excellent. Well, hey Chris, we want to thank you so much for your time today. It's been super fun, just kind of looking back and seeing what this is all, you know, what your journey has been, kind of leading up to this, and. You have any other thoughts or questions, Mark? That you?
No, it's been awesome. Yeah, it's great to being that we're a video game podcast that from a musician's standpoint. It's cool to have a composer from a hugely successful game and hugely successful soundtrack on with us. So thank you very much.
Thanks guys. My pleasure.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks a lot, man. Take care.